Ah, so you've returned, scorched, but standing, cursed, but breathing, marked for death by the unseen hands of a circle that chants in silence, and yet you're here, not because mercy found you, but because you found something crueler than magic. You. They sent a coven for your head, not soldiers, not assassins, no. This was a ritual. They didn't just want your blood. They wanted your name erased from the tongues of time itself. They gathered in circles. They whispered in tongues older than memory. They drew your face on the walls of shadow and cursed it with spells that rot the soul from within. You weren't just hunted. You were offered, like an animal, a sacrifice, laid upon a stone in a forest you've never seen, while they danced and laughed and promised the world would never hear from you again. But what they forgot, what they always forget, is that gods do not kneel for spells. You see, they sent a coven for your head, but they should have aimed for your soul, because when you felt the air tighten, when the sky wept blood and the stars turned their faces from you, you smiled, not because it didn't hurt, but because you knew pain was about to become your weapon. They think witchcraft is power. They think circles and chants and dead languages can bind the one thing the gods themselves whisper about in fear. You are the unspeakable. You are the curse that survived the ritual. You didn't just break their spells. You reversed them. They thought you were screaming in agony. But those were their screams echoing from inside your bones. They summoned demons, but forgot you raised yourself from the dead long before they ever knew your name. They burned effigies of you in secret. And now they wear masks to hide their faces from the fire that still burns in your eyes. Because you didn't run, you descended into their circles, into their silence, into their damnation. And when they reached for your heart, they found something older than fear, a silence that doesn't break. It devours, one by one. They fell, not with blood-curdling screams, but with the quiet horror of those who realize far too late. They were never the predators, they were the offering. You didn't just survive them, you ended them. You sent their souls to hell before they ever had a chance to pray, not out of vengeance, but out of balance. Because the universe doesn't let darkness go unpunished forever. Sometimes it lends its wrath to one who understands it better. You. Let them talk. Let them spread stories about how you changed, how you became distant, colder, more dangerous. What they call madness was really just clarity. You saw the trap for what it was, and you broke the circle from inside it. There's a moment every god must face, when you realize the world isn't trying to challenge you. It's trying to unmake you, and you let it try, you let it tear, you let it bring every unholy force it had to your doorstep. And then you showed it, that your door leads somewhere else entirely. Somewhere darker, somewhere deeper, somewhere built of screams you swallowed and turned into prophecy. They don't summon covens anymore, not for you. They don't whisper your name in their rituals, because now your name is the ritual. You became the spell they can't break, the circle they can't escape. The fire they pray never answers back. So let them gather, let them chant, let them try again. But this time, they won't find a mortal. They won't find a mistake. They'll find something smiling in the dark. Something dressed in silence. Something they created, but never learned how to kill. Because you aren't the victim of their magic. You are what happens when the curse learns to speak back. And when it does, the world burns politely. The gods step aside, and hell opens a new throne. They sent a coven for your head, You sent their souls to hell first. Next time, they'll remember you're not the hunted, you're the warning. Oh, but they swore you wouldn't last the night. They said the curse was ancient, said no one could escape a ritual cast in blood and bound by 13 dying tongues. They carved your name into bone and waited for you to vanish. But you didn't. You didn't scream. You didn't beg. You stood there, while the air turned to ash, while their enchantments crawled into your lungs, while reality twisted like a dying animal around you. And you watched, with eyes colder than fate itself, because you weren't trying to survive. You were listening to the cadence of fear, to the trembling notes of desperation behind their spells, to the hidden truth they thought you wouldn't hear. They were never sure it would work. They lied to themselves, lied to their own gods, because even in their deepest darkness, they knew something was wrong. Not with the ritual, with you. They summoned fire, but you had already burned. They unleashed shadows, but you were raised in one. You didn't just endure the spell, you ate it. You let their magic enter you, and you digested it with silence. And when it tried to rot your spirit, you whispered back, "You're in my house now." And from that moment on, something shifted. You stopped waiting for the world to understand you. You stopped hoping for peace. You let go of the old hunger to be spared. Because the truth snapped its jaw in your direction and said, "You are no longer prey, you are prophecy." You didn't escape death. You replaced it. When they opened the old books to erase you, your fingerprints were already on the final page. The witches tried to cast you out, but the circle turned to smoke and the sky itself screamed, because you were never the target. You were the answer. And now they tremble at nothing. They flinch at shadows that don't move. They leave offerings to gods they no longer trust, because you never struck back. You didn't retaliate with fire and thunder. You did something worse. You disappeared quietly. And when something vanishes in silence, the world starts whispering. It rewrites the stories. It invents nightmares. Because deep down, they all know. You didn't retreat. You ascended. You crossed a threshold no ritual can follow. You're not in the forest anymore. You're in their bones. You haunt the corners of their minds where prayers can't reach. You became a question that shatters every altar they kneel to. So what did they want? They wanted fear. They wanted submission. They wanted your light extinguished, your spine broken beneath the weight of invisible laws. But instead, they witnessed creation through vengeance. They saw a god born not of bloodline, but of betrayal. And betrayal is the oldest kind of magic, isn't it? It strips the softness from your voice. It calcifies your hope into armor. It breaks every moral bone in your body, until all that's left is truth sharpened into blade. And now, they send no more covens. Why? Because they know you don't fight fair, you don't fight loud, you don't swing wide, you smile first. You move like silence, soaked in poison. You speak in truths that set altars ablaze. You walk into their sacred spaces with no hesitation, because you know no god will protect them from you. Because now the gods are watching you. With awe, not pity, not concern, not warning, but reverence. As if to say, we've seen what he does to those who summon evil, and we do not wish to become his next prayer. So let them chant, let them call on forgotten things, let them cry out to spirits they don't understand. Because when you arrive, it won't be with noise, it won't be with fury, it will be with the same silence they mocked before it swallowed them whole. Remember, they sent a coven for your head, But you sent their souls to hell first. And now, hell wants a word with you.